So today is the appearance day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our previous acharyas in our line. So I'll just speak a few words about the significance of his appearance in life. He appeared in this world at a time when Lord Chaitanya's mission, Lord Chaitanya's line, had more or less deteriorated. And that was because of several things. The turning of the Indian intellectual class, particularly in Bengal, to the teachings of the British colonial authorities, and due to other things as well. So Gaudiya Vaishnavism at that time did not have a very good reputation. So Lord Chaitanya sent Bhaktivinoda Thakur to restore and revive his line of teachings. So he was trained in English language education, so he had a mastery of the English language, and also Bengali and Sanskrit. So he was an administrator in the British colonial government of India. He became a magistrate, which means he was in charge of judicial proceedings. And he attained a very high position. He was at one point the magistrate for Jagannath Puri. Of course, Lord Jagannath is here, and his home is in Jagannath Puri, and he was the magistrate for Jagannath Puri, so he was intimately serving Lord Jagannath there. And that was one of his contributions. He regulated the service that was going on in the Jagannath Puri temple and established very precise rules for the offerings that were to take place there. So he also supervised the Rath Yatra festivals that were held in Jagannath Puri. And one of his contributions to our Krishna consciousness movement was that he prayed to Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, to send a ray of Vishnu to help reestablish the Krishna consciousness movement. And his prayer was answered when he and his wife conceived Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He was one of their children. So he also went on to be Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai, Shashi Gauranitai Ki Jai. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was one of his children, and he became another great acharya in our line, the spiritual master of our founder acharya, Srila Prabhupada. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a little earlier than his time in Jagannath Puri, he became interested in finding the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Of course, now we have it in print all over the world, but at that time, the great work of Krishnadas Kaviraj Thakur was lost. He had to search around quite a bit to find out any existing copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Then when he found it, he became immediately convinced that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the inspiration for a worldwide spiritual revolution. Of course, this is the age of Kali, which is a very dark age. But within the age of Kali, there's a 10,000-year period that started with the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where spiritual enlightenment in the form of the Hare Krishna Sankirtan movement would spread around the world. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur could sense that. He became interested in locating the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya. By studying the Chaitanya Charitamrita and other Gaudiya Vaishnava texts, he became very dedicated to this, and he arranged for the government to transfer him to a place, Krishnanagar, near Sridham, Mayapur. And he wanted to locate the birthplace, the actual birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, because sometimes in India people advertise that they have the appearance place of an avatar or a great saint, and they're just doing it for some material motive to get some fame or some profit. So he wanted to locate the actual birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that sense, you could say he was a transcendental archaeologist. Sometimes I have a reputation for some books that I've written, trying to establish the Vedic viewpoint on human origins. And if we look at the Puranas, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Bhagavad Purana, and others, they talk about events in human history that took place in different yugas, different manvantars, millions of years ago. So sometimes people would ask, is there any evidence for that? So I was asked by the BBT and the Bhaktivedanta Institute to do research in that area. So I've done some research, and I wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. And sometimes I speak about that at scientific conferences. But it's, in one sense, that's a little bit indirect. So I found another topic that is related to the subject of archaeology, and that's spiritual or transcendental archaeology. Like Lord Chaitanya, he asked his followers, especially Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and the other members of the 6 Goswamis, to go to Vrindavan and find and excavate lost deities of Krishna. Because 5,000 years ago, when Krishna was present, Krishna left this world a little over 5,000 years ago. And then King Vajranabh, who was a descendant of Krishna, became the king of Vrindavan. And he established different deities all over Vrindavan. And then later, some invaders came, and the deities to save them, were removed from the temples. The pujaris took them from the temples and buried them. But they never came back and got them. So Lord Chaitanya asked his followers to find those lost deities and lost sacred places in the Vrindavan area. So the Goswamis and others, like Madhavendra Puri, he excavated the Gopal deity. He went to Vrindavan, he was sitting beneath a tree, fasting and meditating, and a little boy came up to him and said, "Nobody fasts in our village." And the boy brought him some milk and some other things to eat, and he accepted them. And then he went away, and then he appeared in a dream to Madhavendra Puri and said, "I am the Gopal deity, and I've been buried. I was once installed in a temple here, and the pujaris, to save me from some invaders, they hid me away, they buried me, but they never came back and got me. And now I want to come out again and be worshipped again in a temple." So Madhavendra Puri woke up and realized, oh, this boy that came to me, that was Krishna, and now he's appearing to me in this dream. So he went and got villagers, said, "Bring your digging implements." And they went to the place indicated in the dream, and they excavated, and they found Gopal deity, and they took him to the top of the Govardhan hill, and later Madhavendra Puri had a temple built for him, and he was worshipped there for some time. Of course, then later some invaders came, and now he's in Nathdwar, some other place. So that's an example of transcendental archaeology. And Rupa Goswami, he was asked by Lord Chaitanya to find the Govindaji deity that had originally been installed by King Vajranabh but had been lost. And he went everywhere in Vrindavan looking, trying to find this deity of Govindaji. And he wasn't able to find him. So one day he was just sitting, crying, and this little boy came up to him. This is told in Bhakti Ratnakara. Little boy came up to him and said, "Oh, my dear sir, why are you crying like this?" He said, "Oh, my Guru Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has asked me to find this Govindaji deity, but I can't find him anywhere." And so the boy said, "Oh, you come with me." So he followed him to this hill. And on the top of the hill, there was a cow pouring down milk spontaneously on the top of the hill. The boy went away. Rupa Goswami thought about it a little bit. Said, oh, that was Krishna. He was showing me where Govindaji is buried. So he went and got some villagers and said, bring your shovels and your picks and your digging instruments. And they went and they dug on the top of the hill, and they found the Govinda deity and established a temple, the Govindaji temple, which was later torn down by some invaders. And the deity was moved to Rajasthan, where it can be seen today. But there were many cases like that. And Lord Chaitanya himself engaged in some transcendental archaeology. You know, he found in a cave in a mountain in Vrindavan deities of Krishna and Balaram and Nanda and Yashoda that are installed in a temple in Nandagram today. And then he also relocated the lost sacred places of Radhakund and Shamakund. So this is another kind of archaeology that I sometimes talk about, and I get to speak more about Krishna directly, Lord Chaitanya. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also engaged in this transcendental archaeology work. Because this is one thing that archaeologists do. They relocate lost places. You know, they find artifacts and things like that. But the spiritual transcendental archaeologists, they find lost deities, lost sacred places. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur relocated the actual birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Once, he was on some expedition where he was trying to find the place, and he was staying in an ashram or guest house in Navadvip on the other side of the river. And one night he was on the roof of this building looking out over across the Ganges, and he saw a column of light descend from the sky at a certain place. So the next day he went to that place and began to inquire from the residents if they knew anything about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his appearance place. And they didn't, but they said, oh, there's one place where there's a lot of tulsi plants growing. So he went to that place, and it's stated from archaeological records, from old maps, from his study of the Shastra, and by direct perception and spiritual perception, he was able to determine this was the actual appearance place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And to test it, he brought Jagannath Das Babaji, who was very old at the time and was carried in a palanquin. He couldn't walk very well. But when Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought Jagannath Das Babaji to this place, he confirmed it was the birthplace, the appearance place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he jumped out, even though he was old, crippled, he jumped out of his palanquin that he was being carried around in and began to dance ecstatically there. So sometimes archaeologists, they have their instruments that they use to test things. radiocarbon dating and this and that. Well, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had his instrument for testing. Jagannath Das Babaji passed the test. So that is the appearance place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Yoga Peeth, that we visit in our parikramas in Sridham Mayapur. And the inspiration for the temple there and the location of the place for the temple that's there now was given to us by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And it's very powerful to engage in kirtan at that place. It's like being in a spiritual jacuzzi or something, It's like you're swept off your feet into the ocean of prema that's there. So that place was given to us by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And one of my favorite places in Navadvip, Mayapur, is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house across the Jalangi River from our Sridham Mayapur project. And just such an amazing place. I like visiting it. If you're there on a day when it's not very crowded, you can spend some time in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's rooms, and go to his little balcony where he could see across the Jalangi River to what's now our Sridham Mayapur project with the Temple of Vedic Planetarium rising above the trees on the opposite side of the river. Bhaktivinoda Thakur predicted that people from the West, from England, Germany, all places in the West, America, they would all come to Mayapur and take part with their Bengali brothers and sisters in Harinam Sankirtan. And he predicted that would happen, that someone would come who would spread Lord Chaitanya's movement, as Lord Chaitanya himself desired, to every town and village in the world. So here we are today in this temple of Jagannath and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here today because of his desire that someone appear to actually fulfill Lord Chaitanya's prediction. So that personality was His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote about this. He even began to send books about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings to the Western world. He mailed them to important literary authors and scholars, and the devotees in Canada, I think in Toronto or Montreal, I forget which place, they found one of the books that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had sent to the Western world to a scholar at McGill University in Canada. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was important to our movement for many things. His relocating of the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his reestablishment of Lord Chaitanya's movement, which at the time of his coming and becoming active in this world, Bhaktivinoda Thakur becoming active as a preacher, it had deteriorated in its reputation. People thought, oh, it's just some sentimental thing for some people who can't do anything else. So he established it as a great philosophical and spiritual transcendental movement with very high standards of behavior. So he revived the Krishna consciousness movement, relocated the place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. He desired and predicted that this movement would spread all over the world and that people from all over the world would come to Mayapur. And we can see it happening. So we can't underestimate the potency and power of the desire of a pure devotee like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he, as I said, he prayed for a ray of Vishnu, so he got as his son the devotee who became Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And and then he actually began the program of distributing transcendental literatures all over the world. He did it himself. His son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, also followed in that line. And of course, Srila Prabhupada. As I said, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur became active in India in the 19th century, Chaitanya Charitamrita was practically lost. He had to search very hard to find it. And now his descendant and the line of disciplic succession, Srila Prabhupada, has introduced it all over the world. 13 volumes originally. It was printed in. Now there may be different numbers of volumes and different editions, even a one-volume edition. But it was such an achievement to bring that literature back to the attention of a world that greatly needs it. So, for all of those reasons and more, we're grateful to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. His literatures are vast. He translated into Bengali and wrote in Bengali, and even some Sanskrit works he wrote that are very useful, like Jaiva Dharma, books like that. That BBT is producing an edition of Jaiva Dharma. That'll be very useful. I found it very useful because in it, I see the essence of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the practices of the devotees, how they deal with each other outside the perspective, the institutional perspective, which in one sense is something we're compelled to take on because society demands it of us. Once Srila Prabhupada in the early days of the Hare Krishna movement in the United States was giving a lecture, then he had a question session. And there was a young man who asked him a question. He said, this was in 1968 or something like that. And he asked, one of your members gave me an invitation to this temple, and it says on the invitation, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc. So he said, why this Inc., incorporated? And Prabhupada said, because you want it that way. Your government, the government of the United States, the government of the state of New York, the city of New York, they want that we be incorporated. And then you have so many bank accounts and officers and bylaws and so many things. And that's necessary because society demands it. On the spiritual level, what's demanded is a society of devotees. Tandara Trana Seve Bhakti Sanivas. We should serve the acharyas in the association of devotees. But in order to have an association of devotees with a place to meet, you have to have a building. And to have a building, it has to be in the name of a society, a religious society, so we have to form religious societies and have officers and bylaws and bank accounts and presidents and vice presidents and so many things. But the essence of it is an association of devotees. And whatever we have to do in order to have an association of devotees in this world, we do. But we don't think that what society demands that we have is that apparatus is the real thing. The real thing is the association of devotees. So that's one thing I got from reading Jaiva Dharma, is how an association of devotees functions. Without the apparatus. Of course, we have to have the apparatus. Like as Srila Prabhupada said, because society demands it of us. But it's meant to facilitate the association of devotees so that we can have places to discuss, hear and chant about Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, so that we have a place where we can engage in the service of the deities, that they have a stable place to be, that there's some arrangement for it. So, but that can all be done without having a formal incorporation. At least in Bengal, in centuries gone by, it could be like that. So we're grateful for the appearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in this world. Our modern Krishna consciousness movement owes so much to him. He founded a society of devotees in Bengal. I forget exactly what the name was, but his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, also founded an association of devotees, the Gaudiya Math. And Srila Prabhupada, following in their footsteps, established an association of devotees, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, all glories to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Any questions or comments or further glorifications of Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Okay. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai.
Drutakarma ki jai.
Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Thank you very much.
I'm thinking I'll take the deco down. It's been a while. No? It's time. It's done. It's done its job. Just have to climb the ladder and do it. But I'm just taking the pictures first. Excuse me.
Really fancy outfit.
It's very cute, I think, this outfit. Very delicate and sweet and cute.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah, it's pretty. Roses and parrots and
Real tops.
it's like really.
Yeah.
And they're just going down. Oh my god, they're so beautiful. Even like sometimes they're so beautiful. Wow. I'm just like, oh my god. I mean, not just girls dressing, but it was just like, it's so beautiful. That's it, even before I finished the turban, I just put the skirts up and I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful.
Shane, I don't think I can make it today.
Not? Okay.
Tomorrow.
Thursday's tomorrow, right?
Yes.
That's also good. The lecture ended quite early, right?
Yeah.
The lecture ended quite early.
After close the darshan, either you take darshan now or you wait and you take.
I can't come there, so I'm taking from here. Can I come here, there?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Krishna, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Namaha, They are fresh flowers.
I think so.
Okay, very beautiful.
I mean, they're always fresh.
Okay.
Eigentlich wollte ich nicht was sagen. Es ist so, dass wir Boxen vorbereiten müssen.
Ist es heute?
Also morgen auch, aber das ist ein spezielles Programm. Und das wäre gut, wenn er oder die das machen. Du hast wahrscheinlich so was.
Ich habe heute Wandern. Viertel vor, wenn ich heute 10 Uhr und Passada noch an. Das ist ja auch 10 zu 11.
Ja,
Nachdem ich nicht weiß, nicht wie spät ich fertig bin.
ja, ich glaube, ich habe ja nicht was gefragt, er sagte ja, und jetzt ist irgendwie ein Missverständnis, weil es können.
Okay.
Er möchte halt nicht kommen. Weißt du, wo er ist? Oder?
Wahrscheinlich oben, wenn ich irgendwie.
Weißt du, was er nicht?
Ich glaube, der ist auch in irgendeiner Gruppe noch drin, die wir gerade aktuell kennen.
Ja, ich bin halt mit dem Geschäft. Aber du hast doch gesehen, aber nicht da.
Ja, ja, genau. Ja, so.
Ja, wenn das schneller gehen.
Ja, oder ich weiß nicht, wie viele Schnitts zu machen.
Ja, er sagt eigentlich einmal zu, deshalb sind wir wie so ein bisschen auf ihn angewiesen.
Okay, ich kann damit.
Ja, und ja, würde das zeigen, aber
Yep. Jai Jagannath, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Jai Jagannath, Jai Bhakti, Jai Dasa Vitaya Pakva Kasayo Niyam Mairya Maihi Yuye Brahmani Atmanam Vijitaksanilasayaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
And everyone is fasting today. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati.
आज फास्टिंग में से? नहीं, मैंने तो एक काजू भी खाया, तो सो दैट है। ओह नो, ये तो मैंने खाया ही नहीं फिर। कब तक था? फास्टिंग टाइम अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ, यहाँ पे 10:15 नहीं बजे। रुको रुको, आई विल हैव लाइक दैट। ये तो 9:15 हो गया, 10:15 तक है। और मेरी तो यहाँ के अकॉर्डिंग उसी टाइम से एकादशी स्टार्ट हुई थी ना, समझ गई ना? एकादशी स्टार्ट तो अभी मेरे पास नहीं है, वेट कर लूँगी। डोंट वरी, थैंक यू। यहाँ पर एक महाराज आए हैं, महाराज भी आए हैं यहाँ पर, एक बड़ी बड़ी मेरे साथ। उन्होंने मेरे से पूछा, मैंने बोली महाराज का मैंने क्या पूछा, मुझे समझ नहीं आया। हरे चले जाएंगे थोड़ी देर, दिन में ऐसे भी डाल देंगे। करीब मैं रात को 2 बजे पहुँचूँगी। कल रात को 2 बजे। सुबह रोटियाँ कर देंगे, सो रही है। तेरा हाथ उठा, हाथ उठा। ठीक है, ठीक है, दवाई दे रही है उसको। सुबह में उल्टी आया ना, इसके जो कब जब होगा था वो सारा निकल, इसको आराम देना होगा। घबराना मत कर जल्दी से ना, धीरे धीरे कुछ नहीं होगा। अच्छा है इसने उल्टी करी, उल्टी करने से ना इसको बहुत रिलीफ मिला, वहाँ अंदर छाती में ना कब जल जाता है वो निकल गया। बिल्कुल प्यारी मेरी, कम सुना मुझे मुझे ना घर याद आ रहा है, मुझे सब कुछ याद आ रहा है, मुझे आ रहा है। यार इसकी बहुत अच्छी हो गई थी, मुझे भी लग रहा था इतनी अच्छी स्किन हो गई। बस लुक्स के क्या है? ऐसे ठीक से सब आया हरे कृष्ण हरे टेम्पल सर्विस में माता जी करती हूँ अपने प्रभुपाद पर माता जी इसका आश्रम भी बनाया, वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में प्रभुपाद ने माता जी इसका आश्रम बनाया, इस टेम्पल में माता जी का आश्रम बनाया, प्रभुपाद इसका आश्रम बनाया। नहीं देखो ना, हम तो वेस्टर्न मंदिर में तो वो
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare